In life, you either sell or be sold. So I'm going to start a book review on a really controversial guy, Grant Cardone. His book, Sell or Be Sold. What do we think of it? I'm one chapter down, so I will break it down for you guys, what I think, what I see from it. But he's got some catchy lines. You know, everything in life is a sale, and everything you want is a commission. Now, he's not quite wrong on that. He's got a point. And I don't know that I don't agree with it. I don't know that I do agree with it, but I don't know that I don't agree with it. I think it's pretty spot on, right? Generally, some people that write books or self-help people or motivational speakers, they're very esoteric and they make big blanket statements and they brush with wide strokes. And that's kind of it. But I like the first part. The everything you want is a commission is the only part that I don't know that I quite like it. But I do like everything in life is a sale, right? You sell yourself. You sell so many things in your lifetime. I'm excited to see. Does anyone else do this to their covers, though? Just side note. I always take them off and keep them in pristine condition. I don't know why. I keep it in perfect condition. Once I read the book, I put the cover back on it and I put it in my book collection. Now, just in case you've been living under a rock, Grant Cardone is a New York Times bestseller author and star of television's business coaching show, Turnaround King. He is the Turnaround King. Now, I joke with, if you've been living under a rock, maybe you don't know who Grant Cardone is. Grant Cardone is extremely controversial. He is one of those people that I can say without a shadow of a doubt, you either love Grant Cardone or you hate Grant Cardone. There is never he's an all right guy, you know, I can live with him, live without him. People love his philosophy and they think he's right all the time, or they just hate him. He rubs people the wrong way. He's very full of himself. He's very arrogant. Now, I used to follow Grant Cardone on Instagram, on Twitter, through his social media networks, right? I don't follow him anymore. I actually am one of the people that he rubs wrong. But this book was suggested to me by an influencer that I watch. So I thought I would give it a shot because I really like them. And they kind of had the same thing. They said, I typically don't like Grant Cardone. This book changed the way I sell. That's a pretty big sell. If I said his book changed the way I sell and I'm in sales, I got to get this book. Now, one way to win me over personally, just how to win me over, is build something relatable, right? So he relates to the reader immediately. This book is dedicated to my father, Curtis Cardone Sr. Now, that's super relatable because it invests me in him. It humanizes him, right? It takes him away from being an author, a businessman, a billionaire, and just makes him a guy. Because at the core of whoever wrote this book is just a son still wanting to impress his father. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that little forward here that he mentions his father, and I don't want to read it all. I just want to read that sentence. This book is dedicated to my father, Curtis Cardone Sr. Billionaire, author, New York Times bestseller, and still mentioning his father in a foreword of a book. I think it's really cool. I think that it shows who he is as a person and not as a businessman, not as a social media icon or a personality online. It really shows who he is. And I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so I read some reviews today online about what people are saying about this book, and it kind of cracked me up. They were like, it's only 257 pages. It's only 22 chapters. That's a lot. I'm going to be reading this book forever. One, I'm out of the practice at reading. And truly, how many of you guys can say today that you still read? Or, read more than Facebook or articles that pop up on your phone. Who sits down and holds a book and reads and allows it to draw your interest in, right? Especially if you're reading something for work or to learn a skill, right? It's not as fun as reading a Harry Potter or a Lord of the Rings or some sort of novel that you just love. I mean, you're reading this to pick up a skill. So it's almost like reading a textbook. It's almost like reading homework. You're trying to learn something. You're not just reading for enjoyment. You're reading for an outcome. And sometimes that's the hardest reading that you can do. So to tell me that it's 257 pages and 22 chapters. So what I really like in this book is he relates selling to life. And anything that you get out of life is your result of selling and your skill set. So if you have a big house and a lot of money and tons of luxury things, it's because you sell well. If you have love and compassion and happiness brought to your life, it's because you're selling well. These are all commissions from selling. So he uses selling as a huge metaphor that he relates pretty well. I actually don't have a problem with it, and I don't have a problem with the reading of it. I don't like calling the rewards of it, everything of it, like love. Love is love, right? Love is an emotion. It's something that you feel, and he believes it's a currency. It's a commission paid out to you from effort put into someone. So it's interesting to see, but I don't mind it. And the more I'm actually reading it, the more I like it. Now, how many of you guys highlight in a book? Whenever you read something that you really like, do you guys highlight or do you just read it and absorb it? My favorite thing in the world to do is to read a book like this, Sell or Be Sold, and then I'll go back in 6 months and I only read the parts that I highlighted. Does that make sense? I like it. I don't know. I like it. Now, I will read out of your book, Don't Sue Me, Grant. I thought this part was awesome. He talks about being aware of false data. And I think this part's incredible because he relates it so well in Don't Sue Me, Grant. I think it's amazing the way he did it. So I'm trying to brag on you, Don't Sue Me. Take urban legends, for example. A guy will swear to you that it was a friend of a friend's sister who disappeared on prom night 20 years ago, and that her ghost now hitchhikes along the lonely road between town and the old cemetery. You'll hear that multiple stories across multiple cities across the entire U.S. When you ask dates, times, facts, no one ever has them. They just spread these urban legends. It's crazy to me how true that is. Can you think of stories in your life that you're told as facts? I mean, factual. People tell you like, this is legit. But it's probably just an old wise tale. It's an urban legend. I mean, when I read that, I stopped and I had to think about it for a minute. How often do people... I'm going to dig a little deep here. How often do you spread urban legends? How often do you pass on information that you were given as factual, but you don't actually know that it's factual? You were just told by somebody. You played the telephone game. How many of you guys have played the telephone game? Somebody tells you something, you take it as gospel, you pass it on. But you don't really know if it's 100% factual or not. I mean, I'm guilty. I'm the king of facts. But you know what? I'm also the king of Google me. Google me. Now, I don't like books like this. I love books like this. I love books like this. I love a book that you're reading to gain knowledge, gain a skill, gain something, and it challenges you at the end of the chapter. He has questions at the end of the chapter and asks you a series of questions that you have to answer. Some you have to remember what you just read to answer it back here. And then some you have to stop and get into thought about what you just read, the question, answer it. You have to replay the last week in your head. And you're like, where is that relatable? I love when an author does that to you because I feel like that's what he's kicking into you. He's really beating that knowledge deep. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 different questions. And some of the questions have 2 to 3 answers that he wants from you. So he's really making sure that you're learning what you're reading. Chapter 1 is setting a premise for you either sell or be sold. Where you are in your life is how good you can sell, and how selling is the metaphor for life and commission is the reward in life that you get from selling. Essentially, sell or be sold. Chapter 1 for me was phenomenal. I'm going to give it on a scale of 1 to 10, an 8.5. I would read it again and again